Hi guys, this is Delaware Studios. Welcome back to the movies application. This is the part 5 and we're going to be integrating the trailer, which is like a short clip of a movie, and it's actually going to be in video, and we will be using YouTube to actually make that visible. So how are we going to integrate the video of each trailer of a movie? We need to call a different API now, and we'll just pass in the movie ID into that URL link, and we're going to run that and get something of this nature. If you should look at the link, we're passing in an ID of 100. That is unique to just a movie. A movie can have different kind of ID, probably 120, 1000, or even with alphabets. So this is just unique to a movie, and you pass in the videos, calling the API key. Definitely you must have your API key, and you change your API key to the API key you got from the movie DB API. And once you run these, you have a JSON key value pairs, and I actually looked at that with a JSON specifier to actually get it clearly stated. We have the results, whereby you have the key. This is what you really need, which is this key is unique to a YouTube video. With this key, you can either launch an application, that's a YouTube application, from the device, if the device has YouTube as a standalone application. The app will communicate with that app, which is the YouTube app, and actually display the trailer. But if YouTube is not installed, as YouTube application is not installed, it's going to communicate with the web, and the web page will call YouTube as a URL, probably youtube.com, and assign this key into it to pick that specific trailer movie. So that's just it. That's how we'll be working, and I'll be showing you the steps to actually integrate all these together. Now look at the YouTube. This is actually for this particular ID, which is the key. That's it. That's the value of the key. I place it right into the YouTube link to actually watch this trailer. So once I click on play, I'm going to actually get this working. That's the trailer of the Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. This is just what we're trying to integrate right inside the app. So we're going to start working on this, and we'll have to make this look appealing. There shouldn't be other glitches. So we'll be actually be using the API call, and we'll be creating an adapter to make this work, because we'll display this in the detail page, and it's actually going to be in a Recyclerview. So we're actually going to do a lot, but let's go back to the source code. I've committed the changes I made in the fourth part, so you can access the source code from the GitHub link. I'll only be using a link as I'm moving further in the tutorial. I'll be committing changes to the GitHub right there in the github.com. So that's just later. So now we're going to look at the layout. We need to make some inclusions in the layout of this application, and we'll be looking directly at the detail page. We have the activity detail, which points us down to the content detail. Now let's take a look at the content detail. We have the content detail that has the relative layout with a scroll view, and take away these problems, and it houses linear layout that have text views to display different aspects of the movie, as a plot synopsis, the vote average, and so on. Now I'm going to actually introduce a kind of this is a layout that can actually undo complicated UI, which is actually called the constraint layout. I'm very sure you're quite familiar with this in Android material design. The constraint layout will allow you to pick different layouts or views side by side. You can manipulate it easily. That's the best form of handling complicated UIs. Constraint layer is the way to go. So I'll be using constraint layer here to actually make my arrangements smooth and perfectly working. So we have the scroll view right there on top. I'll actually include a linear layout right there. Let's have a linear layout. You can as well tweak it in the direction you feel it's it's just suitable for you. But I'm actually going to give you a good standard, so you're going to probably work on this or even improve more on these. So I'll assign an ID. Let's assign an ID 100 ID, which we're gonna call AD. Just give it that way. Give it this ID. So now I'm going to cut this out. We need to add it up later on. Now I have the scroll view set. Now I'm going to call tools show in the scroll view, which is actually going to be at right there. Oh, sorry, it's actually going to be in the scroll view. Let's add the tools show in equals to layout activity detail. That's fine. That's cool. Now I'm going to replace this linear layout with a constraint layout. Just watch me, and now I'm going to do that. Let's make the change. Android, that's support constraint layout. And for you to include constraint layout in your application, you actually need to include a dependency. So I'll be looking at the dependency. Go to the Gradle scripts, the module app. This is where you will need to include the line of the constraint layout. And if you don't have constraint layout installed right on your machine, I'll show you now to actually do that. Let me include the compile of the constraint layout. Very important. It's a dependency right from the Android support, which is quite different from the support design library. So you actually going to specify the constraint layout differently. Going to be Android support constraints. Now it depends on the version of constraint layout that you've downloaded right there in your SDK manager. But I'll quickly look at that so that we'll be in sync with what we are doing. Before I synchronize Gradle, I would like to go to the SDK manager, which is actually this, the SDK manager. Let's see the level of constraint layout that we have. That's the version. You click on your SDK tools and you show package details. Once you do that, you scroll down, you get to see the constraint layout. Can you see that? This is the solver. So we're going straight to the constraint layout. This is over there. We have for beta and alpha. All those are old versions. If you are using, if you've updated your SDK, you should have the constraint layout for Android 1.02, which is the latest. I will employ you to check on this and install if you haven't, because you need to install this package, and you can pick on 1.0.1. Just pick either of 1.0.1 or 1.0.2. Just click OK and install. I've done that. That's why you can find installed right there at the front. So once you through with that, you can easily sync your application so that constraint layout will be added as a library right there. So after that, I'll be moving straight back to the content detail to continue working with our constraint layout. I think we still have it right there, which will be building on that. Now I'm going to take away this orientation, delete this orientation, and I'm going to actually make this the constraint layout height to be wrap content. That's fine. Now I have it set. So right there we have the text view for the movie title, and we have for the user rating. So pretty fine. Now let's include our trailer. We need a text view for trailer. We've actually had for release dates, plus synopsis, and other aspects of the details. Now over here, I'd like to introduce another text view. Layout with tonight. That should be match parent and wrap content. And let's assign an ID, Android ID. We're going to call that trailer. Might not see it from the display, but it's actually going to work. So let's have some other attributes. Let's assign a text size of 30 sp, and the text, have we created the string? Let's check first. Add string trailer. No, so we need to create that. Quickly dash to the values, strings, call that string name, should be trailer, it's fine. Back to the content detail, we have the set, and we're going to have the constraint itself. So let's specify the constraints. We run this app layout constraint. That's going to be constraint to bottom off over there. That's constraint tab. It's actually tab to bottom off. That's what you pick. So you're not going to assign specify the ID of the view that is right above it, which is actually going to be at ID. You're specifying the ID, and we have the release date, which is immediately above it. Release date. So it's actually going to sit below it. That's what that is specifying. So after that, you're not ended yet. You need to now call the app layout, this time constraint left, that's left to left of the parent, left to left of, which is actually going to be parent. Let's pass that in. So with that, it should actually sit below, which is actually going to be for the release date. So it's the top bottom of that. And now we're going to introduce the Recyclerview. Let's do some sort of rearranging right there in the details page. We're going to take away the static text views, which is actually for the movie title. We have also for plot synopsis, taking them away. We have for user rating, since we'll be using a constraint layout, we'll take away for the release date as well. So we're going to have the text view for each dynamic view. So we're actually going to be doing some sort of rearranging. Now the first text view is actually for the title, whereby we have the margin, we have the margin left as 10 dp, and also the margin top. We've assigned all that. Now I'm going to introduce constraint layout. Let's introduce our layout, constraint left to left of which is actually going to be the parent, and we're also going to have our layout as constraint top to top of. Let's get to look at that. Top to top of the parent. That's fine. We're going to have margin start. We have that margin start. Now let's introduce the Android layout margin start. Layout margin start, which is actually going to be 16 dp. That's fine. And we'll call on the tools layout constraint tab creator equals to 1, and we're going to have for the left, top left, copy. It's actually going to be left. Left. That's fine. And we have the text size. I think we've specified the text size. That's cool. Now we don't need anything called layout below or such, since we have our constraint layout handling that. So with that, we'll start to get our structure tidied. Can you see that? The first text view. Now we're going to look at what should come next. We'll prefer the user rating. So I'm going to actually cut this and replace. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put it somewhere here. Now the user rating, we have the dimension and everything set, but we need to introduce the constraints. Let's make the constraints, which is actually going to be app layout. That's constraints to top to bottom of. So it's going to sit below ID. So it's actually going to sit below title. That's fine. And let's have the margin start, Android. Layout margin start. It's 16 dp. Let's also have app, just like what we had here. That's constraint left. That's for the parent. Let's just introduce. So we need to include the tools layout as for the user rating. Tools layout constraints tab creator is equals to 1. That's fine. So we have the user rating being specified. Now, like the release date to come before the plot synopsis, so I'll just cut this out. Ctrl X, come over here, paste it right there after the user rating, and I don't need layout below since the constraints attribute is going to take good care of that. So that's fine. And let's have the release date constraints. Let's get to integrate the constraints. We're going to have the app layout. That's going to be constraint top to bottom of. That's what we'll be using. So it's going to actually point to the idea of user rating. So it sits below user rating. That's just what that means, user rating. And we're going to have the app layout constraint left to left off, which is actually the parent. Specify the parent from the start, and we have the text size. So I'm going to take away this below. We don't need to specify it to sit below any layout. And after that, we're going to have the plot synopsis, and we also need to integrate the constraints as well, which is app layout constraint top to bottom of. We have that right there. So it's going to be top to bottom of the ID, which is actually going to be the release date. So it sits below the release date, and we're going to have app layout constraint left to left of the parent. That's fine. And we'll take away the below attribute. Right, constraint layout actually reduce the length of the XML markup we're going to write. So, and we have the trailer. We're going to have a thumbnail URL, which I would like to make that invisible. So that's actually not going to display, but we just want to use that aspect as the attribute, or let's say we want to use the view, to undo or to hold on to a particular data that we'll be using right there in the detail page. So let's have this as match parent, and the other as wrap content, and we will assign an ID, Android ID. Let's give it thumbnail. Give it URL. It's fine. And we make it invisible. Android visibility invisible. Once it's invisible, it's not going to interfere with other layouts. So that's fine. Let's have the trailer. The trailer is set, and we have a constraint top to bottom of now it's not going to be release date, it's going to be plot synopsis. Actually started with this plot synopsis, and the parent as well. So that's just that. Now I'm going to introduce a recycler view that will actually handle our trailer. It's actually going to be more than one trailer. You can have 2, 3, 4. You can have 5. You can even have 1 for a particular movie. So it will be very good to have it probably in a list view or a recycler view. So I'm going to use a recycler view. Call on Android support version 7 widget Recyclerview. Let's assign an ID, Android ID. Call that Recyclerview 1 and just specify that. We're going to have a sort of layout, Android layout width required, match parent. Same thing goes for the layout height, Android layout height, wrap content. Now we're going to have Android clip to padding false. We're also going to have Android scroll bars vertical, and we're going to have the constraint app. Now it's going to be layout constraint top to bottom of. Now it's going to sit directly underneath the trailer. That's it. And we also call its parent, that's layout constraint left to left of the parent. Beautiful. So we close it right there. So that's just how to specify use constraint layer. If you notice, we have an elongated kind of look, so it's actually going to be passed into there. So that's just it, and we'll be calling them right there in the detail activity class. So without much wasting of time, let's hit straight down to the Java classes and let's see what we have in stock and what we're going to be changing. We're going to actually add some functionality to the detail activity before we even get to look at probably an adapter that we'll be using. So we find in our detail activity, we only call a method called init collapsing toolbar right there in the onCreate method that actually created the collapsing effect on the image. This. Now we're going to actually integrate one other thing. We're going to be calling a method called init views, and this views is actually going to instantiate the recycler view that we created right there in the detail page of the layout, and we're going to load JSON. But before we start to load JSON, we don't have API to use, so we need to go straight down to the API subpackage to actually lock in that in Retrofit. We need Retrofit to be set up to call the video of a particular movie. So how are we going to do that? Since we have a URL link of this nature, let me quickly show you. We have a URL of this nature, movie/100/videos with the API key. So how are we going to construct that with the API, with the Retrofit get method back to Android Studio? Now I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We still use our get, since we are pulling data from the cloud. So we have the get method. Now, what's going to be the endpoint? We have this as the beginning. Let me show you again. API down to these aspects 3. That's the version of the API. Now, these other aspects of the link, how are we going to actually make it work? How are we going to actually make it work? So back to the studio. Now we're going to point to movie radar / Now we're going to do a kind of placeholder, that we need a movie ID as a parameter. We close it, videos. So now this movie ID is a parameter which must be passed in right there inside the code. So that's the essence of this. Now we're going to make a call just like the way we did for other aspects. A trailer response. Now we're going to create the model for the trailer. We actually have for movies. We should have for trailer, since we are actually pointing to a different call. Let's get to have that, and we use a get movie trailer. Now I want you to look at something closely. Now we're going to specify the path. There's always a path annotation when it comes to Retrofit. Can you see that? Now we need a path, which is the movie ID. The movie ID is the path we need to be filled up. Movie ID, and we need it to be an integer with an ID of parameter of an ID. Now we make our query, which is also going to be the API key. So that's not a problem. We already know how to pass in our API key even before now. API key, which is actually going to be a string with the variable of what? API key. That's fine. So the only aspect now is going to be this movie ID. We'll show you how we're going to pass that into the detail activity, into the JSON call. We'll get to look at that. Now in the model, we quickly need to create the model for the trailer and also for its response. Let's quickly do that, just like the way we did for the movies. Trailer, and we're going to have commit it, and we're going to have trailer response. This is the Java class. Response. fine. Now right there in the trailer, we're going to actually have our serialized name. Since we have the key value PS as our key and name, let's quickly look at it again. Right there in the JSON beautifier, we have the key and the name. That's what we are actually going to look at. These two right there in the results. This results and ID is actually going to be in the response, but we need the result array, which is actually going to be key and name. Just let's pick that too. That's the, I think that's what we, the name of the trailer and also the key of the trailer. I think that's the most important aspect of the key value PS of this particular JSON. So back to Android Studio. Now let's create the serialized name for that too. At serialized, going to have key, and we create a private string called key. We're going to have another one at serialized, which is actually for the name. I'm going to have a private string called name. Perfect. Now let's have our constructor, public trailer. Let's have string, this is key, and string name. So let's instantiate or we initialize here, which will be the key, and also this name. Now we're going to use a set and get to actually create the method. We are going to, the first one is going to public string get key, return key, public void set key, string key, this key equals to key, and let's get to for public, that's for the name, string get name, return name, public void set name, take the string name as parameter, this that name equals to the name. So that's the set and get method for the keys, which is actually the results. Now let's look at the response, whereby we're going to undo the ID and the results from the, let's have the serialized name, that's ID, and we have a private integer called ID trailer at serialized name, you know, for the results, private list passing trailer, it's a generic, which is the results, so let's set and get, I have a public integer of get ID trailer. I don't like it to have, let's just maintain it ID trailer. Let's make it return ID trailer. We have another one, public void set ID trailer. It takes a parameter of integer ID trailer, and right there we call this trailer equals ID trailer. I hope you understand this encapsulation. When we talk about Java, public list is a generic trailer. Get results. Return results. Beautiful. So we have that set. Let's get to look at our service. Now we need to import the trailer response right there. We have that set, and that is perfect. Now we will easily move back to our detail activity to actually continue with our code. Now outside this right there, it's actually going to be outside the onCreate, but inside the detail activity, we're going to create a private void init views as a method, and let's see what this method is gonna do. Firstly, we're going to actually include a trailer list, which we're going to be specifying a field which is as a list array right there, and specify it. First of all, we need the Recyclerview as a private Recyclerview. It's object of Recyclerview. We also need private. We need a trailer adapter, which we've not actually created, but never mind, that will be the last to create. The adapter will actually help us to display, create an object to recycler details. We're going to have another private. This is a list. You can decide to use an array list called trailer. I'll create the trailer model, and let's give a trailer list object. So we need to import this. It's a mod from the model, and I think that's fine. We'll get to look at other aspects later on. Do we need to have an activity? If we need that, we'll get to work on that. Let's get back to the init views, and let's initialize some aspects like the trailer list. We need to make it instantiate with a new array list. So you can decide to use an array list or a list anyhow you want it. It's fine, but make it a list. Adapter, let's instantiate that too. This time it's going to call the new trailer adapter, which has not been created. Never mind. We're passing this keyword with the trailer list. And now let's do the same thing for Recyclerview. You get to find a view by ID, or you can use butter knife to bind up. Find view by ID, ID Recyclerview 1, the one which is unique to the detail activity. Now let's call the Recyclerview. Need a layout manager called layout manager. Equals to new linear layout manager, get application context. Now we still call the Recyclerview to set layout manager, or M layout manager as the parameter, and we still call the Recyclerview to set. The way you need that, let's set adapter. Pass adapter. Yeah, because we've actually not created the adapter, so that's why now we call the notify data set changed. Never mind, all this will still be gone. So right inside this method, we're going to load JSON. Let me just specify that now. Load JSON. We've not created that method. It's a method that is actually going to make the JSON call. That's fine. So let me collapse this. So that we'll have space to work with. Even collapse. Just make collapse. Even this. Now let's get to load JSON. That's going to be a private void load JSON. Now, how are we going to make this API call? First of all, we need the movie ID. So actually from what is being passed as an intent guided to the detail activity, we can get the movie ID from that. Which is get intent, get extras, and we get the integer, which is the ID. Do you get that? No, we actually pass that right there from it's actually from the adapter, which is from the movies adapter, when we actually send all these values, down to the detailed activity, So from there we can get our ID, and now let's do a try, which is actually going to run in the background. That's the essence of a try and catch. That's a background call. Now let's do it. So we're actually going to test if that's the API key. We know how to call the API key from since when we've created that early on. Build config, just call the movie DB API token. If it's empty, probably no API key. It's actually going to toast, make text, get application context, please obtain your API key from the movie db.org. I think that's explicit enough. Call your toast one more time and you get the length. Now you can show the toast. Show on that. That's fine. Now you need to return. You need to pass a return value, for the if. Now outside the if statement, if all requirements is met, call the client. Let's instantiate new client as the client class from the movie app. Let's import it. New client. And now this time we're going to still call on the service, just like the way we did API service equals to client. Now we got get client, create the service class dot class. Now we make a call, trailer response, and let's make a call now. Call the API service to get movie trailer. We've actually got top movies, we got top rated. Now movie trailer needs two parameters, the ID and the API key. Can you see that right from the complete, autocomplete? You're going to have that. So inside the parameters that you must really pass in, you pass in the movie ID at first, which we've gotten from the intent, and also the build, which is going to be the API key. Perfect. Still make a call to enqueue. Let's instantiate the new callback of trailer response, and there you have on response and on failure. So on response, what are we going to do? We're going to override it has be overridden already. So on response, we're going to call the list because we need to populate that into the list of the Recyclerview. That's trailer, which should be trailer equals to the response dot body, and let's get the results. Get results. Now we need a Recyclerview set adapter, new. Now we still need our adapter, which we'll be creating immediately after this with trailer adapter, and we get application contexts, trailer. Now Recyclerview, let's make it a smooth scroll to position 0 index. That's fine. So on failure, let's log this to the console for debug purpose. Firstly, let's call error, and let's get the kind of error that might come up. So get message. Let's know the kind of error that might pop up, and inclusively, let's make a toast. Make text, which is the detail activity. This. Now the error, let's say error fetching trailer data, because that is understandable. And let's make the toast length. Now length short, show the toast, show the post. That's fine. Now in any try, there must be a corresponding catch. So let's catch for any exception. Give an object of E. Still, let's log this to console. Let's give error, and let's get the type of error, which will be E. Please get the message. That's the object. Get that message, and inclusively, we still add the toast to make text. This class string toast length short and show. Wonderful. So this is just how to make this work. With this now we have we've actually called the APIs we need, which is actually going to be for the trailer, specifically for the trailer videos, and we've passed it on to the adapter to actually make the display. So now the work now lies on the adapter. But before I continue, right there in the operate method, I need to pass in this init views, or else it's not going to be triggered. It's just going to be there because the system actually look at the onCreate method before any other aspect of the code. So now right inside here, let me use this method init views, because init views actually make a handshake with the load JSON. So from here, we'll be going to the adapter. Let's create an adapter for the trailer, which I'm going to call trailer adapter. Trailer adapter. Now we're going to actually have this done quickly. It extends Recyclerview adapter, and call it trailer adapter, which points to my view order. Call it my view order. Let's call it that, and let's have the structure of this application, or of this particular class. First of all, we're going to have a public trailer, which is the constructor adapter, that takes on two parameters: the context, or m context, and also the list. Arrows trailer, or trailer list. Let's import this. That's fine. And we're going to have to override the view order as public. Trailer adapter, my view order, on create view order, which has a view group, and the position. Use that to specify the position. That's fine. We're going to have also the unbind view order. Let's override that. Unbind view order. It's going to have a final trailer adapter, my view order, also the position we are actually going to have another method. No, yes, we're going to have another method, which is the get item count. Override public integer get item count, which we're actually going to return a value, and let's have an inner class, which will be public class my view order, which extends Recyclerview view order. Now we're going to have a constructor public, and call that my view order. It takes in a parameter, not going to remove is adapter. So I have that specified. My view order, which takes in view, import this as a parameter. Beautiful. So I'm actually going to now fill up the structure of each method. First of all, let's have fields, private, context, called mContext, mContext. Going to have another one, private, lists, trailer, called trailer lists. Now let's initialize right there in the constructor this mContext equals to mContext. We have another this trailer list equals to trailer list. Beautiful. Now let's have for the view order. Now we call the view, which equals to the layout inflator from the view group, get context. Now which layout are we inflating? Layout. Let's import the R symbol, R layout. Now which layout are we calling? The trailer. We haven't created a trailer card. Margin. We need that. We need a card for trailer. Our view group. And we'll make that false. Corresponding in a recycler view, you must have a card to undo those details. New, my view order, passing view parameter. So now let's create the trailer card. We need that. Go to the layout, come over here, new layout resource file, call that trailer underscore card. So let's get to see how that is actually going to work. So we'll click on yes to have that specified. Now back to the text view, a linear layout, fine, vertical, and let's make the height wrap content. Take away the vertical, the orientation. And what else are we going to add? Android, adjust, view bounds, true, boolean true, and let's give a background. Just maintain the background we have for others. Color, view BG, it's fine. Now we're going to introduce our card view, Android, support, version 7, widget, card view. Let's assign an ID, card view, beautiful. Layout, width, okay, let's pick height. We're going to specify a central height for it. We just don't want it to be more than the height of the card. Just don't make it unduly large. And let's have the width, layout, width, match parent, and let's have Android, layout, gravity of center, and let's have Android, layout, margin of let's call the dimensions card margin. That's dimensions card margin. Let's have a corner radius for this card view, card corner radius, no corner radius, 2dp. Let's import this. Now we have that set. So right inside the card view, you're going to have a relative layout. Layout with tonight match parent. Not true with you yet. Let's assign background. We really need that. Okay, let's do that. Color, view, PG. That's fine. Now we're going to have image view. Layout width and height 50dp. That's just an image to specify. And let's make the height of the image view to be 100. You get to see what we're trying to pass into this aspect of the that portion of the card. We're going to pass in the YouTube kind of let's say player. Let's give you an Android graffiti. Sender. And let's call the source Android source. It should actually come from the drawable. That's drawable. And YouTube. That's the name. So I need to actually copy this right inside it. This drawable and paste it right. I've copied it and I'll paste it. It's just a PNG. You get to see it right there in the layout. That's for YouTube. And that's the source. Let's assign an ID called Android ID, which will be equals to the ID image view. Can you see the logo there? That's fine. I think it's cute. Just to signify YouTube player image view. And that's cool. Now we're going to do something here. We're going to specify a layout margin left. Layout margin left of let's give it a dimensions of activity horizontal margin. Yes, let's have some breathing space at the left. And now let's give an Android. This time we're going to be layout align parent top to be true, and also Android layout align parent left to be true, and the last one Android align parent starts to also be true. Beautiful. Now let's have our text view, which will actually be for the trailer name. Call that text view. Layout with tonight, match parent and content. Let's assign an ID. Android ID. ID. Let's name it title. Fine. So let's have other attributes. Now I'm going to have Android padding left, which will be dimensions of movie title padding. We're going to have another one, padding right, which will also be for the movie title, dimensions movie title. Let's have for the padding top, Android padding top. It's also gonna be dimensions for the movie title. That's fine. And now let's give a text color. Text color. Movie title. Let's make it slightly gray. And the text size 15. Let's say 15 SP. I'll be okay, but it's still sitting at the top. So now you see what we're gonna do. Call Android layout center vertical. Now it's going to be true. And Android layout is going to be to right off. To right off the image view. And Android layout to end off the image view, the corresponding end of the image. So that's going to actually be by the side. So if you look at the text, you can see now it's just side by side with the movie, with the YouTube icon. That's what we want to achieve. So we now have our trailer card set up. We can easily go back to the trailer adapter to continue with the structure. Now we have the set. Now let's have the unbind view order. Let's bind them together. Let's bind the text. Now we call on the view order, call title, set text. Now this time is going to be the trailer list. From the trailer list, we're going to get, that's the position, and now we get the name. No, we don't need the key here. We need to pass the key somewhere underneath. So we get there. Now we have to get our account. Now we need to return the trailer list size. That's the list. Let's know the amount of items we have. That's the Recyclerview item. Let's know the amount. This is very important. You need to know the size of the list that you're passing into the item count. Now on my view order, which extends Recyclerview view order, and this is where we're going to actually make some things work. Yeah. Now first of all, let's have the text view field of the title, so that because it's actually calling on the view order, so you can see that it's gone, and we'll declare for the image view as well, which is thumbnail. Now on the view order, let's call the super view. Now the title will be equals to, as a text view, sure, find view by ID. Now we call view, find view by ID, arg.id.title, thumbnail equals to view, view, find view by ID, arg.id, thumbnail. Now on item click, on item click that's of each recycler card, what's going to happen? Now we have the view dot set on click listener. Now we need to instantiate the view on click listener, and this time we're going to override the on click method public void on click. We need to override that, very important. Pass the view to an object of v. Now on click of each item, let's have the position first, so we know the particular one we're clicking. We get adapt to position. Let's test if the position is not equals to the Recyclerview dot no position. Now we're going to call the trailer click, just the variable data item will be equals to the trailer list get position. Now we have the string of the video ID. Now we need the ID now. See how we're going to do it. We call this using the trailer list get position, and also we call the get key method. I see that. Now we call an intent. Call an intent to actually make that happen. So it's actually going to push this to any application right there in your device to complete the task. Intent. Now I have the intent action view. This is how you pass it. You're going to make it a URI dot pass. Now inside there you call vnd dot YouTube. To get that, now you concatenate with the video ID. Just this way. An intent dot put extra, just to pass along the extra if you might still need the video ID somewhere else. That's just the essence of that. Now we call video ID. So let's start the intent context, start activity, pass the intent parameter, and just the toast to be sure that you, or to just make it user appealing, make text v.get context. Now say you click concatenate with the clicked data item. Now you get the name of the movie trailer that was clicked. Let's make so we'll make the next toast to get the length of the toast. Let's show the toast. Perfect. Now let's get to look at the detail activity. This trailer adapter, let's import that. Now we have the set. We're true. You know, we've actually done a lot. We first of all, we created the layout, which is for the content detail, where we use Constraint Layout to actually manage the space and also bundle a lot of views right inside it. When we created views for another Recyclerview right inside the detail page that has a coordinator layout, you know, and we actually have a text view and a Recyclerview system. So using the Constraint Layout make it very possible and easy. And we have a trailer card that actually handles the YouTube player icon and the text view, which is actually for the title of the trailer, which will actually sit right there in the content detail. This is where it's going to sit, so don't forget that that's where it's going to. We included a YouTube PNG picture to actually depict YouTube player, and afterwards we create a service, which is actually the endpoint, whereby we have the movie ID as the parameter we need here. And since we have the movie ID from the first API calls, you know, we have the movie ID from the popular, we also have the movie ID from the top rated. So this is something we'll just pass in when we've actually got the intent, you know, and we're passing as a parameter. So we actually did that in the detail activity when we have the init views, you know, we instantiate the trailer adapter, we call on the Recyclerview, we set the layout to a linear, we are not using a grid here, to a linear layout, and now we load JSON. When we load JSON, we make if you see how we get our movie ID, because we've actually passed an intent from the movies adapter to the detail activity, we get the extra, we get the int ID, and now we have to do this in the background, a try and catch. So if there's no talking, you please be forwarded to where you get that, and if you have, you continue, and we initialize and instantiate the client and service, and we call the get movie trailer, which we actually have right there in the service, or yes, get movie trailer in the service over here. That's cool. And we get a response. So in the response, in the results we actually set that to the adapter of the Recyclerview, which we've done here. So on failure, it's going to actually load our toast that there's an error fetching the message or fetching the trailer data. So right there, we go back to the trailer adapter to actually handle the display. So first of all, we actually created the constructor, which is the context, which is just like a copy of the class, and we have our viewer there that actually inflated the trailer card, you know, because we need the card to set up those data too. And we actually set the title. If you notice that, that's what we did here. We get the trailer list size, and we actually use the on click of each card item. You know, we need this to be called or pushed to an intent or to a probably to a web page or to a YouTube application to actually get that done. And if you should look at how we actually pass the link, use the URL pass and the VND YouTube with the video ID. So that is actually going to be accurate based on the position. Don't forget, based on this position as well. So this is just the rundown, and we've actually improved more on the movies application, and I will show this in an emulator for you to actually see what we've actually integrated. We've come a long way in this application, and we are yet to finish. We need to use SQLite database. We need to catch the favorite movies. You know, as a user, you can decide to pick different movies as favorites, and you'll be able to sort, get back to our settings to sort the grid based on the favorite movies you actually accepted. So on this, I'll be showing you this in an emulator, and I'll also be committing and pushing the code to the GitHub link so that you can also pick it up from there. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. Don't go anywhere. The testing is right here. So now we have the grids, beasts, guardians of the Galaxy, Alien, Logan, and so on. Let's scroll up to get to see other movie, The Fate of the Furious, and sorts. We have The Return of Xander, Cage, and so on. So now we can easily click on one of the movie. Can you see the poster, The Beauty and the Beast? So you can easily scroll. That's a collapsing toolbar, which we get back to the name. That's the movie details. If you should notice, we've used the coordinator layer to handle these aspects of the layout. But we have the title, the vote average, and the release date with the plot synopsis. And this is the trailer. Can you see we have more than one trailer for Beauty and the Beast? Can you see that we have enormous trailer? Can you see that? So we can easily go through each one of them, like watch each snippet. So let's click on the first one, which actually links us down to a web page. Actually tweak the link so that you can actually use a web page, because this is an emulator that doesn't have a YouTube standalone application. Can you see that? It's a YouTube trailer of Beauty and the Beast, belly motion poster. So this is just it. We can easily go back to our application and still maintain the state. Let's look at the official US teaser trailer. Let's see how that's gonna look like. So this is predominant to all movies right there in the movie app. So it's not just only for probably a movie. We'll get to look at other movies and see the trailers as well. This is the US teaser trailer, and let's get back to the app and let's look at other movies, and let's see which one we can look at. Let's look at Logan. Let's look at Logan. Let's get to see the trailer. This is the official trailer for UK. Let's get to look at that. So this is how to actually integrate now our application is talking to other app in your device, probably a web page, probably a YouTube application. This is just the trailer for Logan, and I will implore you to get the source code of this application, and I will tell you to just pick it up, use it in the course of a quick application. Please learn from this. This is very good for you. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Have a blessed time. Take good care of yourself. Bye bye. And this is just it. Thank you very much.